enjoy the show, play on Perjangers.
Welcome one and all to another Mattcast. Got that for you in the can. How are you guys? Yeah, we got another week to us. Start off with, what I've been watching, because start off with the easy one. Dr. Stone. Season's finally wrapped up. Turns out it was aliens. And then they said, you're apparently not an evolved enough species, and then fucked off. So, besides one. And then they're going to make a time machine. So, that's how they left off that. Overall, I mean, it was a cool anime because you didn't know what turned them into stone. Turns out aliens, of course. But the journey of that show was, how did you get this technology? Well, let's break it down. We did this and this and this to get that. So it was rather interesting for that one. I did enjoy Dr. Stone, even though, it was a bit of a silly ending, but I feel like that actually worked for that one, quite a bit, I'd definitely give it 2 thumbs up, though. I think that Dr. Stone overall, all the seasons and stuff they had for that was really good. Wrap it up with a big movie, of fixing everything, if you can make that interesting. Because they end off with we're going to make a time machine and we're bringing everybody back. Everybody gets petrified. Everybody gets back. So we'll see how that turns out, In a movie, I think that would, really kind of be a hard sell. So all things be considered, I think that if you just watch that series for what it is, it's a good watch. It's it's fun, it's entertaining, and then you find out all the questions. You find out who Y-Man is. So that one was good. But talking about anime, man, the latest season of a anime adaptation hit as well. Literally right before I sat down to do Mattcast, and that's Avatar: The Last Airbender, Season 2, Book Earth. Started watching it, got a bit distracted, not gonna lie, because Avatar, man, that Season 2, even the first 2 episodes that I've watched, covering Serpent's Pass, meeting Toph, it just kind of, and then even setting up the boulder, at the end of episode 2, really kind of sets it up nice. And I like where they're going with it. I think that it's actually pretty kind of cool. It's just got the perfect casting that you need. You got to make these seasons quick, though. These kids are only getting older, and then you're going to have one that sprouts up to 6'7", and then you got to do a whole bunch of weird, funky angles. So get the seasons filmed now while you can. Pump all of them out. And then, I know Avatar's working on some other stuff. They got some other animated movies and stuff in the realm. So you can see them, the gang, as an older crew, which, that's the thing. Is the story interesting? Don't just bring it back for nostalgic sake. If you have a good story to tell, because clearly Korra didn't, but if you have a good story to tell, especially with Aang, it's in a good part of the history. It's not like you can just kind of retcon Korra and make it like that ending didn't happen, but, that's what you got to work with the new season. 7 Heavenly Paths or something like that. I don't know. We'll see how that one turns out, because it's one of those things that it can't all just be sunshine and rainbows, like the rainbows that might pop up from this first story. Pirated manga readers are not our opponents. They're our future audience. They are proof that demand already exists, says Dr. Stone artist Bochi shares his perspective on manga piracy. So just talking about Dr. Stone and the artist Bochi, I bet it's one of those one-name guys, like Prince. They're out there. He believes manga piracy is a distribution problem, not an audience problem. Pirated manga readers are not our opponents. They are the future audience. They are proof that demand already exists. Bocchi explained that many manga fans around the world still do not have access to legal manga because some countries lack publishing systems, translations, and proper distribution networks. Telling manga fans in those countries you should buy manga is meaningless if there is no actual way for them to buy it. He raises a very good point. You know what I mean? It's like saying walk to school and you live next to a freeway. That's not going to happen. So he believes that affordable digital manga services are one of the best ways to grow the industry worldwide, reach more readers, and create opportunities for future manga creators. According to Bocchi, making manga easier to access legally could help turn long-term readers into paying supporters, allowing the industry to expand into new markets and connect with fans who have been underserved for years. So very interesting of a take from Bocchi because, it's not like he's saying, oh, these people that have manga at their fingertips and they don't want to pay. He's not talking about you. He's talking about these people that have no access to manga. Maybe it's because it's not in that language yet. It's not translated there. It's a rural area that does not get a proper distribution network. So you have to go on hand-me-downs and whisper down the lanes of any kind of whisper. But that's how wide of a reach that manga has gotten. I have mentioned on this podcast before of just even the schedules for some of these manga artists. They put themselves under such strict, tight, schedules of living. And then eventually when they get up to the success of like a Dr. Stone, they're actually able to sit there and enjoy it a little bit, have somebody help them. And now you got this guy like, you know what, man, we need to keep getting this pirated stuff out there. And that's how we're going to get more because you know what? I got into Dr. Stone, the anime, and then I read ahead in the manga and by one of those apps. And I loved the fact that it was I'm so much further in the manga, but the show is, catching up and stuff like that. It gives you that inside scoop, like knowing what's going to happen. But it gives you a deeper level like that because some people like me, like, oh, I want to see it. I want to know what happens. But I also, I want to watch the anime and I want to watch my voice actors going through these characters. So there's a bit of a good kind of a different amount of attachment there that can form. So piracy, maybe not the worst thing, but at least when we're talking about manga, because you're not going to pirate this next story. Italian scientist froze pure light into a solid and changed physics forever. Researchers include Antonio Gantafate and David Nigro have studied explicit quantum states involving light and condensate systems. The concept of the supersolid is real. Supersolids combine properties with crystalline structures with frictionless superfluid-like behavior and were previously demonstrated mainly in ultra-cold atomic systems, such as Bose-Einstein condensates. Recent experiments involving photons and polariton-like quasi-particles explore whether light-related systems can display supersolid behavior under highly controlled quantum conditions. What applications for a material that's both a solid and a frictionless fluid come to your mind? Other quantum states have you heard? This is such a fascinating principle because, it's light behaving like a solid and a frictionless fluid. that kind of, it's a weird principle, but that to think that that's light, like even if it's, painting with your hand on an actual wall, and you have that kind of fluidity in form, maybe that would help with that, it's definitely weird that they're finding that out now. I mean, but when you're dipping into the quantum realm, you're going to see a lot of stuff like this pop up, I imagine, stuff that we didn't even think was possible. Like the possibility of this next story. Scientists just found the oldest known plague outbreak on Earth. Burned in teeth near Siberia's Lake Baikal for 5,500 years. So we tend to think of a plague as a medieval disease born in crowded streets spread by rats and fleas. New research just pushed its history thousands of years earlier than that. Scientists analyzed ancient DNA from teeth belonging to dozens of hunter-gatherers buried near Lake Baikal in Serbia. Found Unician pestis. That sounds it. Unician pestis. The plague bacterium. In roughly 18 of them. These outbreaks happened 5,500 years ago in small mobile groups, long before farming or cities existed. Children were hit especially hard, and entire communities appear to have died within short windows of each other. Plague did not wait for civilization to become deadly. It's always been there. So who knows, how many different kind of plague outbreaks happened, and they just kind of blamed it on the gods, blamed it on different things like that. But when you actually have DNA proof, like, oh, we looked at their teeth, we found it, it was right there, that's kind of, it's proof. It's proof that they actually did suffer. Like, oh, there was a great plague that wiped these people out, and now we can look back there and go, yep, right there, plague wiped them out. Yeah, that's what happened there. So it's interesting. I wonder how many different, ancient cultures that we can go back to and test their DNA with our modern techniques and say, oh, yeah, this guy was actually very sick, and wonder how that has affected history and just our modern understanding of modern bacterium and plagues and being sick, But speaking of modern times, why don't we hop back there for a minute? They did it. Scientists made electrons flow like a frictionless liquid, and it breaks physics. Researchers just watched electrons, the particles that carry electricity, stop behaving like particles and start flowing like a nearly frictionless liquid inside a single sheet of carbon atoms. Scientists at the University of California and collaborating institutions published a study in April 2026 confirming they had observed electrons in graphene, a material made of a single atom-thick layer of carbon, flowing in a quantum state called hydrodynamic electron flow, behaving as individual particles but as a cooperative fluid with almost zero resistance. This directly defies what Widerman-Franz law, a 160-year-old cornerstone of physics, stated at a fixed relationship between how well a material conducts heat and electricity. In this exotic quantum state, the law breaks down entirely, and the electron collectively navigate around obstacles in smooth, coordinated systems rather than bouncing chaotically. The findings were published in a Physical Review B and highlighted by Science Daily as one of the most striking quantum material discoveries of 2026. The practical implications are enormous. Electrons that lose almost no energy to resistance could lead to chips that run cooler, batteries that last vastly longer, and quantum computers that operate at a fraction of current energy demands. All because you messed around with some graphene. You know, you notice that, hey, this isn't a chaotic result like they expected. This is actually going against a 160-year-old cornerstone law of physics and saying, no, they just fall right in line and march along like water, you know? Kind of, it. I don't know why, but it instantly reminds me of that the Bruce Lee quote I infamously always slaughter, but, you know, live your life like water. You know, if you pour it into a cup, it's a cup. A bowl, it's a bowl. So apparently electrons flow just like that, just like water when you put them in a quantum state. The hydrodynamic electron flow, not behaving as an individual particle, but part of a collective. You know, even in a quantum state, electrons know how to flow. So that's actually, I thought, a kind of cool thing that scientists found there. Because it doesn't matter how the electrons flow in this next story. All of the McDonald's restaurants in Iceland were closed in 2009. And the last burger and fries were placed in a display case where they remain today. Completely mold and degradation free. God, doesn't that make you want some McDonald's right now? The fast food giant McDonald's shut down its last remaining Icelandic restaurant on October 31st, 2009. The departure was driven by the severe 2008 Icelandic financial crisis. The collapse of the Icelandic krona made the cost of importing required menu ingredients from Germany double overnight, rendering the business model entirely unsuitable. Before the doors officially closed, an Icelandic man named nothing I'm going to actually get right. Hang on a second. Herjutur Samuelsson purchased a final cheeseburger and a side of fries to test the urban legend that McDonald's food never decomposes. He initially kept the meal in a simple plastic bag in his garage for 3 years after noticing zero signs of decay. He donated the meal to the National Museum of Iceland, where it displayed for a time. The museum eventually returned the food to Samuelsson due to preservation safety concerns. It was then moved to its permanent home in a glass cabinet at the Snorda House, popular tourist hostel located in southern Iceland. For nearly 2 decades, this burger and fry combo has openly defied the sacred nature laws of biological decay. True nourishing food is meant to rot and return to the earth, making this pristine, immortal relic a horrifying testament to extreme chemical preservation. The fact that bacteria and mold completely reject this meal proves it lacks the vital nutrients it required to sustain even the simplest forms of life. It stands on display not as a miracle, but as a chilling warning that what we are putting into our bodies is fundamentally unnatural. So next time you go driving through that McDonald's drive-through, you may want to just keep on driving, because from 2009 to now, all right, I don't even want to do that math because it makes me feel old, but that's enough time for literally almost anything else you would buy from the grocery store to even just start mold and decaying slightly. So there's something unnatural about it. I mean, there's certain, I think, health check marks you go through in your life, and that's like one of those achievements. Like, yeah, I couldn't tell you. Oh, it was probably like maybe a year since I ate McDonald's last, and before that, Jesus, maybe like 10. I don't eat it. Even when I did, before I heard this story. Even when I did, I just felt like crap afterwards, with all that oil and grease. So I just kind of steered away from it. But this story makes me think I'm never going back to McDonald's. Not for a burger and fries, at least. But you may want to hang around for this next story. Global migration has nearly tripled since 2000. A new study finds. So, a new study published in Nature suggests that intentional migration has nearly tripled since 2000, rising from about 13 million people moving between countries each year to roughly 35 million in 2023. For decades, researchers relied on snapshots collected every 5 years to estimate global migration. Those snapshots seemed to show a relatively stable world. But according to the new study, they were missing much of the story. Researchers from London School of Economics, the International Institute for Applied System Analysis, and the University of Hong Kong used artificial intelligence to reconstruct year-by-year migration patterns for every country on Earth between 1990 and 2023. Instead of relying on occasional population counts, they combined census data, migration records, demographic information, refugee statistics, and anonymized location data to create the most detailed global migration map ever assembled. What they found surprised them. Not only did the number of migrants increase dramatically, but the share of the world's population moving between countries also rose substantially. In 2000, roughly 2 people out of every 1,000 moved internationally each year. In 2023, that number had climbed to nearly 5 per 1,000. The study also challenges a common assumption. While wars and humanitarian crises create some of the largest migration surges, researchers found that long-term economic development and improvements in quality of life appear to be among the strongest drivers behind overall increase. In other words, the world's growing mobility may be shaped as much by opportunity as by conflict. The new data set also revealed events that older methods often missed, including rapid refugee movements and regional migration surges that occurred between official accounts. Researchers say that the findings could improve everything from population forecasts to public health planning to studies of climate migration and economic development. So knowing where everybody's going is obviously an important thing. So they're using AI to track you and make sure they know where you're going. I mean, we all knew that they were watching us anyway with these cell phones. So, nearly 35 million people on the move since 2000. That's a big jump from the 13 million people. But 5 for every 1,000 people are going to internationally move each year. So that's a staggering number of people in your life that are just going to be moving on. A lot like this next story will be moving. 80-year-old woman with advanced dementia started speaking, walking, and dressing herself again after taking a high dose of psilocybin. So according to a case study published in Frontiers in Neuroscience, an 80-year-old woman with advanced dementia experienced a remarkable but temporary improvement in her symptoms after receiving high doses of psilocybin-containing mushrooms. The woman who had been who had been living with dementia for about a decade and required assistance with walking, dressing, eating, and other daily activities, reportedly began speaking in extended conversations, recalling autobiographical memories, walking unaided, and engaging more socially following treatment. Researchers in Brazil observed significant gains in her mobility, communication, emotional responsiveness, and contents after an initial 5-gram dose, with further improvements noted after this second 3-gram dose administered 1 month later. While the findings have generated interest in psilocybin as a potential avenue for dementia research, experts emphasize that the report describes only a single patient and should not be interpreted as evidence that psilocybin can reverse Alzheimer's disease or other forms of dementia. So yeah, it's not for everything, but this one case is very interesting on why the psilocybin actually, improved her mental state and, or overall her function and functionality. I mean, Jesus, the woman was conversating, remembering her life, communicating and moving around. That's a big thing, and emotional responsiveness too. After 8 grams of psilocybin, they see a drastic improvement with this woman's advanced dementia setting. And now you have a lot more focus on this because it's less of a stigma on this. We know that when you take these mushrooms, that you're creating new neural pathways in the brain, and that's helping a lot of different people, especially different kind of psychedelic drugs, helping veterans and people surviving PTSD. It does help, especially doing stuff with the brain. So this is why we need to do more studies, man. We need to get people on these medicines, I'll say, and keep studying them, because this is how we're going to find all this interesting stuff there. Just like you found this interesting podcast here. We got some more events coming up in the future. We're going to be at the American Motor Fest. We'll have some details with that for you in the future. And, everything ends in this podcast the same way, gang. And that's that we love you, we miss you, and we can't wait to see you next time. Until then, drive on and game on, boys and girls. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, man. Now that was a Mattcast. One thing I need you to do is to hit that subscribe button and make sure you like and comment below so everybody else can see the greatness of this cast. And make sure you hit that button right there. That's going to be the very best Perjangers and Wallhangers video for you. And above my other shoulder, that's going to be every single Mattcast in a playlist for you. Until we see you next time, gang, game on and drive on, boys and girls. Bye-bye.